Alrighty, guys, here we are, and we are setting up here for hole number 9. So let's see what we got here, and I'll be going first. Very similar approach to what I did last time, and let's take a look here. It's going to require a reasonable amount of overplay. But also keep in mind how much of a precision shot this needs to be as well. So there's 5 rings. Here's 10. I'm thinking, 10, 11 rings. Somewhere around here is going to be ideal. In between 10 and 11 rings, no real curl. But as I mentioned, you don't have a lot of room for error here. So you do need to be relatively perfect on your timing. You don't have 3 rings to play with, for instance. So, I was able to get the perfect ball, which is going to put me down here as far as possible. And I also brought Guardian. So if you were watching my last guide, I did a rough bump. Now I'm going to use kind of a backstop approach. This is going to be another good way of doing it. This is kind of unusual. It seems like a much easier shot with a rock 8. It's kind of a funny thing to use topspin QB. That's a little unusual. This is probably, the least interesting, or probably best. Like you just don't want to really go this way unless you absolutely have to. Because you're really not going to get a good look for albatross. So, much better to go this way. And, as I mentioned, with this backstop, we need to land up there towards the fringe. So it is going to be easier to pull this shot off with the Power 4 balls, but we can still do this. So we are going to go kind of and just try to land this up towards the fringe. So I'm thinking, what's that, 5 rings, 10 rings? I need to be thinking that it's going to land at least 12, 13 rings down. And, with that in mind, how much overpower? I'm thinking, very little overpower here. So that is not a good attempt. So maybe with perfect ball, it isn't terrible. But with a 2-ring great ball, as you can see, we didn't hit this part of the hill where it needs to roll down. So kind of a wasted attempt there, but at the same time, very safe. Especially if we have something with a Power 4 option, we're going to have a good look at that one. I've been able to roll it down that hill and get the albatross that way several times. And it is a really good look at the hole when you're able to put that ball guide more up towards the fringe. Also, keep in mind, I didn't get the best rollout there on that tee shot either. So, much better opportunities to get a better, rollout. And then, with that Guardian approach with the backstop, you can just kind of go full backspin and give yourself a real good look to be able to make that. So definitely a preferred method of mine. So the only way that I would recommend going to the right at all, as you can see, both my guides go to the left, is if you just essentially don't have any other option. So the way that, opponent here went, the only way that I'd go that way is if I didn't have a Pak 6 or a Pak 7, or Thor's Hammer 7's technically okay. So I'm kind of looking at, if I don't have those 3 clubs, then you can go that way. And what it allows you to do is play more of a precision shot, so you don't have to worry about max OP, costing you that hole. And that's another option that I have, is to go berserker off the tee to kind of put myself more in that range. So that's something that I've also done in the past. What that allows me to do is, let's say I did that there, and I hit that same exact drive. maybe my max berserker is on the fringe, which is kind of where I want that ball guide to start, so I can actually count rings a little bit easier. I had to kind of eyeball it and say, okay, this ball's going to fly at least 13 rings down, and I was just trying to visualize 13 rings and setting up my overpower to kind of land on the fringe. You can see I ended up 2-ring great balling it significantly right anyway, and it landed much more into the green. But it gives you an idea as to what I was doing. Also, keeping in mind, I don't have a lot of room to great ball left, so I was just a little bit early on the timing because I knew it was kind of safer. Because if you do great ball left there, for instance, maybe I'm not even on the green. So, do keep that in mind. It's an approach that I like, and if you can get that drive just a little bit farther, or even go berserker ball, it is going to allow you to get dialed in there. But do keep in mind, you got to do a significant overplay. If I'm going 13 rings on an 11 with a Guardian, that gives you a general sense of how much of an overplay we're actually talking about there. Because typical Guardian at 13 is going to be, 11, 12 rings? And I'm telling you to go at least, 14 rings. You're looking at least this minimum, maybe even this. So plus 30%. Alternatively speaking, it's not necessarily a plus 30% shot. If I was able to have a wind directional arrow, you can see that gets me much more in line with the actual ring adjustment there at the max line. It's about 15, 16 rings. So it does give you a sense of what you need to be looking at there for that shot. So keep that in mind. Good luck with your rounds. Let me know how it goes, and take care, guys. See you guys next time.